cold this week.
Sure.
So like, I haven't had any issues walking her.
Sure. Yeah.
I also haven't been as many stressors.
Her typical stressors.
Right.
Okay.
So there haven't been like additional, which I'm kind of like annoyed at because I've been like trying to change up my walk time to see if maybe there'd be more dogs or more, just trying. And I've been like, we started to change the route we walk, and she did fine. But
Okay.
yeah, so it's been going okay.
Okay, so like, let's look back before training.
Yeah.
Let's say you broke out of your routine, whether the route or the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would that have been before? Like, is it like, oh, it would have been the same?
Well,
or-
before I couldn't walk her out of my cul-de-sac during the day.
Okay,
So that's one thing.
sure.
And then she couldn't even like come close to a person or another dog without getting reactive.
Mhm.
But we can walk by
All that stuff now. Good. So let's say,
most dogs.
except for the nemesis, yeah, which you've tried, but
She is a little hesitant to like come close.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, because she recognizes them,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. So, one thing to keep in mind, and I get the frustration, right? Because it's like, now you got the tools and you're like ready, you're pumped. Is, you know, I look at it and go like, well, we're going out the cul-de-sac now.
Right, yeah.
And I'm changing up the routine, and it's more random, you know, to her, because
Right.
now it's like, it's not a set path,
Right.
you know? So that's still the plus.
Yeah.
It's just, of course, the weather, people hibernate a bit more. What about like that 5 to 7 o'clock time frame? Is that like any busier for your neighborhood?
A little bit. Yes, a little bit more.
Okay,
And but like, cause I have to take her out once I get home, so I usually try to walk her then, but now I'm trying to like, I let her out when I get home, but then also take her out around that time.
I gotcha. So like a potty break in the yard or something?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good. And even at that time, it's been typically more quiet?
Yeah, this week, I don't know why.
I don't think it was much colder.
I don't either, but
Yeah.
for some reason, I just haven't there haven't been as much people walking
Okay.
or dogs.
And I told you about my walks.
Yeah.
And okay, so that come springtime, like you'll have opportunity.
Right.
Okay, so even if you don't get it in the winter, you can come by in the spring. Okay, and then last week we worked on the place command.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Taking a little longer than I thought for
Sure.
her to make the connection between places. Like, I still have to physically guide her.
Okay, so like verbally, if you say place, like she's not just
She's going now.
going. Okay.
I changed up the mat halfway through the week, so I don't know if that kind of maybe confused her.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I was using like a small rug mat, but I wanted a bigger one so that when it came time, like she could lay down fully and not be off of it. 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
when she would lay down, like her tail would stick off or something, so I wanted something more concrete that was bigger. So I
Mhm.
changed the placemat, so I don't know if that confused her. I don't think it would have.
So typically, like it shouldn't, like it would be like unrecognizable, but after a few reps, she should just tie like okay. Now, when you were trying to condition her to go to the new one, was she apprehensive at all? Like kind of like, what is this object?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay, and you worked her through that,
Yeah.
and then she started just going
Yeah.
more comfortably. Okay, how long ago was the mat changed? The place?
Probably Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, so it's been quite a few days.
Yeah.
And then so what's the trouble that you're seeing is if you say the word, she's just not like recognizing going there.
Right away.
Okay, that's okay. Every dog learns like different, right? You're not walking her there, right?
No.
You're making her.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that you could do is you could incorporate food with this to help with the recognition. Place, and she goes there, good girl, here's a piece of cheese, right? And then release. I'm not against food, I use food all the time. So it's either you keep drilling it without food, and at some point it just clicks, or if you want to speed up the process, I would incorporate it. So she thinks, okay, cool, like I go here and I get something for it. When it comes to duration, like he stay there, don't move for a period of time, I don't worry about food anymore. Okay, it's just about keeping her there. Okay? Anything else?
No.
So We've covered the heel, we did the reactivity stuff, we did the stay, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did we do stay?
I don't think so.
Okay. We did place, because this is what, number 6 for you?
I think so.
I know Maria keeps track of the calendar. Okay, so we got a couple things that we could do here. One is we just keep, because behaviorally it doesn't seem like there's anything to really press. Is that correct?
Yes, as of right now, yeah.
As of right now, okay. Is we teach more obedience essentially. So the discipline stacks as you teach more things, right? Because it gives you more things to hold her to, right? So if I say like lay down and don't move for the next like 30 minutes or whatever, like she doesn't move, and the same thing with like the placement and stuff. That all those things together are just what helps kind of reinforce the reactivity and keeping yourself in check and all that nervous and stuff. If you're to come in and tell me like, hey Jesse, like it's like lunging and barking, it'd either be I need to go to you to see what's going on, or we need to press her a bit more and put her under more power to get it to go back. Okay. Otherwise, this seems to be progressing like the way it should be, which is everything's under control, and then we just keep educating so you have more and more control. Okay. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
And then at some point, we're gonna want to cover recall. Do you happen to have a long leash?
I bought one.
You do. Also, you do have one.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have it with you?
No.
No. Okay. It's all right. Let me think here. Let me check something. I'll be right back. So what we'll do is we'll work on the stationary stuff, or not stationary, but a couple other things, and then next class we'll work on the recall.
So bring them.
You don't, we haven't.
Oh.
What I was checking right now is our floor, and we've got like a bunch of dogs on the floor, so we'd have to clear them and then bring her out, so that'd just be a waste of time. So we've done auto sits, correct? But we've not done formal sits, okay? And we've not done the stay.
Right.
Okay. So what we'll work on first is the stay. With new people, how is she?
Fearful.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay, that's another thing we can work on. How often do you have guests?
Every couple months. I mean, every couple times a month.
Okay. And because there's still the territorial behavior, right? With people coming in. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so I can plan this all out. So when it comes to people, like right now you can see how she's shaking here.
Right.
Okay, do you know why all this is happening?
Maybe it's fearful.
Yeah, what else?
I'm sure.
What else? She's doing something she doesn't want to do, right? Because I made her move towards me, right? So when I put the brake, when I pulled her, you can see her like putting the brakes on, right? Now she's gonna be a little bit more because I've done the remote stuff. So, with her behavior, we have like the reactivity stuff, which the obedience is like addressing. When it comes to building trust with a dog like this, if someone came over and you put the leash on her and you gave them the leash and you made them, or they made her come to them by dragging the leash, what you would see is a lot of this. And she could be right here next to the person. and she'd be like this, right? Because she's going, I don't want nothing to do with you, leave me alone. It's a real simple exercise. And there's two parts to this, because if a person comes into your home and she's being reactive, you need to address that first. Once you've addressed that, then we can go to okay, now you go to the person and we start building trust, okay? Her nervousness keeps her in a state of suspicion. Yeah. Keeps her in a state of suspicion. And if she stays in that state, curiosity will never come through. You'll not ever see her. In most cases, get over it, that person. Okay, she's just like, I don't, and she could see them over the course of years and still just like, nope, I don't like you. Because her brain is so stuck on territorial, I don't trust you, nervous behavior. So, specs and cans. Jeez. It's okay. So if I start coughing, that's why. So here, in order for her to get over that, she needs to make the decision to go to the stressor. In this case, it's me. So I crouched down, I went to pull her towards me. She goes, I don't want to go near you. I started remoting. I didn't say come, I didn't say anything like that, right? So what I'm trying to condition her is when I crouch down, her default response should be to move into, so that she doesn't get a chance to think otherwise, okay? Now, a moment ago, she was here for like a couple minutes, and then she starts to get up and go like, get away, right? I didn't say anything, I simply remoted, brought her back here. Now she's sitting next to me, right? So once the nervousness becomes overwhelming, we get flight response, right? Like, I'm done with the situation, I'm gonna go. I allow it to a degree, and I start remoting without any words, and what I'm saying is, you can't run away from me, okay? So then, as I keep her here longer, her brain can only stay stuck in that discomfort for so long before it starts to give in, right? So like now she came back, she sat down, then I waited and I'm talking, and then a few minutes goes by and now she lays down, right? Now here, if you look at the way she's laying down with her back away from me, so she's facing towards me, right? If she was super comfortable, she would lay down with her back to me. You see that? So this is still nervousness coming through and distrust, but this is still a step forward, okay? So when we do things with dogs, people's perception of like building trust is typically through food. Like give them a lot of treats and at some point they'll love you, right? And in some cases it does work. Either because the nervousness wasn't that bad, you know? Or maybe they've done it for months with a particular person and then the dog's like, oh, you know, I get it. So here, for Xyla, when we're trying to build trust with someone, there's a couple things that we can do. So as humans, when we build relationships or friendships, we can go have coffee together, we can go to movies together, texting, phone call, go for a walk, go shopping, right? We can do limitless things to like build that relationship. Dogs don't do that. They're not like, hey, let's go read a book, you know? They hunt if they could, or they would hunt. They go to the bathroom, they rest, they travel, they eat, they play, they mate, maybe a couple other things, right? So out of those things, like 3 of them are good for building relationships: playing, resting, and traveling, okay? If we don't have trust, she's not gonna wanna play. So it leaves resting and traveling, right? If your guest comes over, like they're not, you know, here, go walk my dog for 30 minutes, right? So she can like you, right? They're not gonna do that. So that leaves resting, right? So here, even though Xyla's just at my feet, she really doesn't want to be here, right? Is that over time, so like let's say you had a guest come over, we address the territorial behavior. You give the leash to your guest, you tap, Xyla comes over and lays down at their feet, and then you guys just hang out and talk for a couple hours, right? That's actually how you start to build trust. Is she's in, so we have social space. Like right now, this is a social space because we're like having a conversation, we're talking and stuff like that. Is that when I get dogs that are antisocial, like with people, they'll be outside. They'll be like in a different room, or they'll be far off away, kind of just like observing, right? So when we force them to be within the social space, even though we're not actively doing anything with her, she's still present.
Right.
And what she's learning is, oh, like I can be next to you for this period of time and nothing bad happens. And then that's how we start to like desensitize or counter condition.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go to like, I believe at the park, right, when you tried to walk her with the prong collar,
Yeah.
and then you weren't getting anywhere
Mhm.
because the prong collar wasn't enough to cut through the nervousness, right? So then you don't make any progress.
Right.
But then once you were able to cut through and get her to dial in and focus and express her, or not express her, but expose her to the that environment, then you start to make progress, right? So here, if I dragged her and was just keeping her right next to me, it could happen, but you're looking at a very, very, very long time of forcing her to be in my social space
Right.
before she goes, fine, I'll let it go. When she thinks she's doing it, it's much faster. So it's like reverse psychology. You move away from me, negative happens. You move closer to me, negative goes away. So that's also a part of it. She goes, oh, well, when I try to walk away from you, this goes off. So this must make it a safe place.
Right.
Okay, so you're like manipulating the dog. So this is something very simple that you can do if you feel like she's ready for it. Okay, if she's in a reactive state because the person just came in,
Mm-hmm.
I would wait till she dials down. Okay, since she's entering into their social space, there should be no reactive behavior because she's putting herself there.
Right.
Okay, so it's like me going to a bar and telling everybody to be quiet.
Right.
Like bars are loud,
Right.
so we don't go in and start complaining about how loud it is, right? Same thing kind of for the dog. When even though she's being remoted, since she's placing herself next to the person, I've, in my experience, never seen a dog flip because they think they did it. Okay. Now, if you drag them, that's a totally different thing. So I'm just doing very subtle pressure here. So if I crouch down and move away, and she were to want to move away from me, I would have tapped to bring her in, no words, so she thinks, okay, if I walk away from Jessie, this goes off. So here, if I stand up, I've not told her to stay. I'm more so creating it mentally through the remote.
Right.
Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions so far? So this is the behavioral aspect of it that you can use to start building trust with people. Okay, because this is like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit of shaking still, right here. I can see it, and back here too, but not as bad as it was at the beginning. Okay, and you see her licking her lips and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So licking the lips isn't anything bad. It just means that what happened was stressing her out.
Okay.
So we never correct licking lips.
Okay.
What I would like to see here is Xyla panting, like she was earlier, because the panting is venting stress and relaxation. So you see how her mouth is closed,
Yeah.
right? Because I moved and I've changed things up, so she's kind of tense because she doesn't know how to feel about it right now. As soon as she accepts it, you'll start to see the brain, the mouth panting, and that's the brain telling you like, or showing like, okay, I can be next to Jessie, and it's not too bad, right? Like I don't like it, and I'm really nervous, but ultimately it's not too bad. Like I can deal with this. So like, let's say she was panting and relaxed, and all of a sudden I touch her like this, and her mouth closes. That's tension. And I think, did we talk about this outside?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look at all that stuff as communication.
Right.
Okay, so if she were to close her mouth,
Yes.
I don't promote it. I just go, what's happening right now, she's not comfortable with. And she may let it go, or she may keep it for a bit before letting it go, or a dog could potentially escalate. And we've not seen her escalate, right? So I kind of opt to, probably not gonna happen, it's gonna be one or the other, okay? When you start to see her moving towards people and just right off the bat just panting, that's how you know you're really close. Okay, because right away she's stepping in going like, okay, I can take this, not so bad.
Okay.
Look at this. You see that?
Yeah.
So then if I, let's see, start petting here. Right there, see how the mouth closed? And then opened up. Right there. You see that?
Yeah.
And so that's a go. Right there. Momentary. And she she closes her mouth again, and then she lets it go. Okay? So once you can start, so like let's say she's sitting next to your guest and she's panting, and then maybe your guest speaks very loudly.
Right.
She closes her mouth. The energy, she doesn't know how to feel about it. And then she lets it go. Okay? The faster she lets it go, the better, because that means she's getting over it obviously much more quickly.
Right.
Even if she holds it for a bit, like on someone when you saw me pause,
Right.
because I was letting the brain process.
Okay.
So I was testing and I'm going, where do you get uncomfortable? As soon as I saw her get uncomfortable, I held, let the brain think about it, and then I would move, right? You don't have to worry about your guest petting.
Okay.
Okay, most people tend to jump to that. I actually don't.
Okay.
I ignore the dog. Okay? I did it here to give you the visual, but for her, even if she's starting to smell the person, like, hey, who are you? A lot of people go like, oh, they're being friendly, like, let me go pet them now. I'm like, they're not ready yet. And then you start to see them jump back or become reactive again because we overstepped the boundary. Okay? Questions?
No.
All right. So now, we're gonna cover the stay. I'm gonna dip this down, we're gonna go to 25. So here, if we issue the heel command to Xyla, she's supposed to automatically sit, right? So if I were to move again, what's her inclination gonna be?
To walk.
Yeah, right, to follow. So now we want to teach her to go counter that. Once she hears the cue of stay, stay means now you don't move, okay? When we would issue the word heel, we would move forward with that left leg, right? So now when we issue the word stay, we move out with our right leg, okay? So we're at 25 here, heel, left leg. So now Xyla's supposed to be walking with me, and then I do all my pivots and stuff. Tap, good. Yeah, the girl. Good, right? So now I don't want Xyla to follow me. I'm gonna take the hand nearest her, I'm gonna go stay, I'm gonna pivot out with my right leg like this to face her, okay? The reason why we do this is if we try, to just do this, it looks too much like heel currently, right? Because now we gotta teach her to distinguish between the two legs. So this, we step out, we swing around, and I'm putting what's called confrontational pressure. So, have you ever had Xyla, or maybe you've seen a dog sit, and they get up and the person walks to them, and the dog will sit again?
Yeah.
Yep, because of the confrontational pressure, okay? So this helps her keep the brakes. And then what I want to do is I'm going to shorten my leash here, and I'm at 25, as I start to tap, move around, tap, Xyla, tap, 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 and I relax, right? So when she's not moving, I'm moving. When tap, she's moving, I'm not moving, okay? The reason for this is, for the past few weeks, tap has meant come here, right? So if I try to keep walking around her as I'm remoting to correct her, she's gonna be confused because she's gonna keep thinking, I gotta go to heel. So when I stop, I'm allowing her brain to kind of disconnect and go like, okay, like, I can't get to you and you're not moving. I feel this upward pressure, which during the heel has meant to sit, right? That she starts to think like this is familiar and she goes back down into it, okay? So now we're conditioning her that this tap, just like last week was meant to go here, now it means keep your butt on the ground, okay? So I keep moving, tap, good. Tap, tap, good. Tap. Tap, good. And it's always straight up. Now, I don't care if she pivots a little bit, but the last thing, the thing that I don't want is sometimes the dog will come all the way to the owner before they sit, and then the owner will step away. Well, don't do that. Keep the dog away from you, okay? Because you're trying to prevent them from coming here, because then they'll just end up thinking, again, the heel, because heel means come closer. So I'm trying to eliminate that so she can't complete it. She puts her butt down, I relax, so she's doing, oh, like this doesn't mean come to you, this means to stay where I'm at, okay? Tap. Good. What can happen sometimes is, since the dog's so focused on the owner, is they'll swivel.
Right.
So they'll be on their butt like this, and they'll do this, okay? If that happens, I ignore it. I don't try to correct it, because they're technically sitting, right? They're just trying to sit and keep an eye on you. That fixes itself. Once the dog learns, oh, I just do this and I hang out here, the swiveling goes away, okay? The only thing I care about is if she actively picks that butt up and starts to move, okay? Back to her side, heel, good. So now we're teaching her to distinguish between walk with me and don't move. Yeah, girl, stay. Good. Good. If I pet her to distract her, the stay is still in effect. Until I release her or give her the next command, she's supposed to keep her butt here. Okay? Heel. Good. Stay. And I'll always, in the beginning, hold it here. So if she gets up, it's immediate. Because a lot of people let the slack go, then the dog gets up, and they're like this, right? Not I mean, I'm tall enough to get tension on there. Good. Heel. Good. And what we may see here is a delay on the movement, because now we're teaching something that's opposing, right? Good. Stay. So as we teach more obedient stuff, we create more problems with the training. Here, she's thinking, well, do I wait or do I go? So if I were to issue the heel and she's confused and she doesn't move, I keep walking and I just remote to get her to start moving forward. So she thinks like, oh, heel means I absolutely have to move. Stay means I don't move. Okay? Questions? I'm going to hang her to here. Here. Tap, 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 and relax. Because she was going to stay, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so that's a real common thing. Is when working with, especially when I work with couples and stuff, they're so used to like the dog reading them and stuff that the dog will be in a stay and they'll be transferring and the dog gets up and they completely let it go. And I'll tell them, correct your dog, they were sitting. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, right? Because we tend to excuse it because it's technically nothing bad. But in the scheme of control, if it's an option or like an inconsistency, it starts to throw everything else off, okay? So what I'm gonna have you do here first is instead of just going into heel, I'm gonna have you come up to Xyla and I'm gonna have you pet her, okay? And you can give her a lot of, yep, tap, tap, up, tap, and relax, and pet. Good. Now, you're gonna step away, but she's still in a stay. Okay, I'm going to walk around. You see she flips, tap, 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 and relax. Good. Tap, tap, good. Good, and back to her side. Good, and heel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Keep your.
And then up, tap for the sit. Good, and then left hand stay.
Stay. Oh, I stopped it wrong.
So yeah, so what she did was a left to right, right?
Yeah.
So it's really exaggerated. You're like literally just like stepping out that right leg, but you caught it, right? Because technically, like you're stepping out to do this, but for her, she gets really tuned into your movements. She just sees it as this, right? So yeah, you would be swinging out your leg, boom, like that. Try it again, yeah. There you go, tap, tap, good. It's okay, and move around. Because she's gonna be more inclined to follow you because you're the one tap, tap, tap that does all the walking with her, right? Good. Going to come back to her, gonna give her some praise, good girl. Okay, and then step away again. There you go. Around, good. Yep, yep. Good. Good. Back to her side again. Good. And heel.
Heel.
Good, and step. Tap for the step, yep. Good, stay.
Stay.
Perfect. Tap, tap, good. Tap, tap, good. Yep. Go ahead and stand next to her for a second or so. Doesn't matter where, that's fine. So she moves a couple times, right? You tap, she puts her butt down. What I'm liking is that she's not trying to come back to you. Like she's actually stopping and like putting the brakes on and going back to where she was. So like futuristically, if she were to have no leash and you told her to stay and you told her to get up and you tapped her, it should just put her back in that position. We don't want to see, it's kind of yes and no. We don't want to see her returning, right? Because that means like misconception.
Right.
But then the other half of it is if I do remote the dog and they come to me as a default response, is most dogs want to run away.
Right.
Right, then I go, then technically, yes, you do want to see it, but obedience-wise and understanding the concepts, like you want her to be able to understand, like, oh, I can go back into what I was doing before, right? Kind of like the place command. And she's on her mat, and you start to see her sneak off a little bit, and you tap her, you should see her go right back into it, okay? When it comes to practicing this, stay is probably like the least useful command in my opinion, okay? Because if you're gonna have her do anything for any period of time, like you would send her to the place, stay is implied.
Right.
Or if you said down, stay would be implied, right? So the way I do have my clients apply it is like, let's say Xyla go, like you're taking her out for a walk and she poops. And you pull up and you tap her, she goes into a sit, stay. You pick up her poop, you come back, heel, right? We're walking, we see a trash can, stay, holding the leash, I'll step away, throw the poop away, come back, heel. Okay, that's like the application of it. Otherwise, like let's say you're walking with her and you hit a red light, stay and just practice at the red light.
Okay.
If I get a dog that's really environmentally nervous, like traffic and stuff like that, or like oncoming traffic, I'll have the owner stay or do a stay at the light and kind of step off and isolate the dog.
Okay.
Now they're still holding the leash, right? Because you provide some degree of security. So if the dog does have a nervousness to the environment, like oncoming traffic, you just see them there because like they don't have that security blanket anymore, right? And then once the light turns green or whatever, the owner will come back, heel. and then go back into it again, right? And they're teaching the dog, like, you can handle it by yourself, nothing bad is gonna happen, okay? Otherwise, obedience-wise, stay to me is like the least useful. Questions so far?
No.
So I'm gonna have you go and step out again, but she should not move. There you go. You're leaning. Good, and then back to her side, her right side, yep. And I'll have you do 2 more. You wanna go to the heel, 2 more heel to stays?
Heel. Stay.
Mm-hmm. Does she have like a favorite toy in the home? Or
Yeah, she's like 2.
would she like play with them and engage with them if you like throw them and stuff?
Yes.
Is she like really impulsive, like gimme, or is it kind of like,
Sometimes it can be. She
Okay.
can be. It's like off and on.
So like if I have a dog that's super drivey, like loves to chase the tennis ball, I'll do stay, I'll pull the ball.
Yeah.
You know, and dog, nope, break, boom, and then they can go get it, right? So then you can start adding in the controlled distractions, but then the distraction can also become the reward, right? There's most likely with Xyla, what I would expect because of her personality type is if you try to incorporate it, she most likely not want anything to do with the toy.
Yeah, that's what she
Yeah. It's worth a shot, you know, if you want to try it. If you find like she's doing really well with it and you want to kind of just challenge her a bit more, that's one way you can go about it. Okay?
Heel.
Girl.
Stay.
Good. Easy?
Yeah.
All right. So, sit. So Xyla knows the concept of sit,
Right.
but she doesn't, at least not the remote fight yet,
Right.
know the word formally, right?
Mm.
How do you think you would teach it?
Just adding it, the word, when she pull.
Because we've pretty much already taught it, right?
Yeah.
Because during the heel, when you come to a stop, you would pull up and tap, and it would shape this behavior. But in the heel, it's a part of the package. Like it's included. Like you don't go heel, sit,
Right.
heel, sit, right? Because then that would be constant. So heel, if you did that, for example, heel, came to a stop, sit. She's no longer in the heel. So if you were to move again, she should technically stay,
Right.
according to the definition of the obedience command, right? So we teach it as part of the heel. So even if I say it once and I start moving, technically I don't have to repeat it because it's still in effect until I give a new command or I release her, right? So even though she comes to a sitting position, should I move? She should, like I said earlier, her default response is most likely going to be I walk with you unless I'm given the stay or some other command, right? So when we do the sits, it's exactly that. You would give the cue first, then pull up and remote. So now you're creating a sequence. It's heel, up, tap, put your butt down, right? So then she starts to connect. When I hear this word, this happens. So what happens if I hear the word and I just do it? Nothing happens, right? So she goes, oh, I can avoid the tap if I simply do this the moment I hear the cue sit, okay? Now when we do this, we don't want to do this exercise in the context of heel. Okay, we're gonna break from that. So I'll go ahead and take Xyla here. Girl, break. So what I like to do is what I call free motion sits. All that means is I'm moving in a nonsensical manner. Okay, I don't want to do it from my left side Because what can happen is if I do sit on the heel, you'll start to see her randomly sitting because she's anticipating that's going to happen. So what I like to do is just kind of move around with the dog. I typically reverse, and when she's not either paying attention to me or while she's moving, I'll just randomly give the cue, sit, up, tap, 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 and then ease the pressure and continue with what I'm doing, okay? So the reason why you do it this way is to remove myself from the command. Most people, when they teach sit, they teach it here.
Right.
Because they give the treats here.
Right.
And I've seen people give the cue of sit, and the dog will walk across the room and sit right in front of them. Because dogs are about picture. So they think, when I hear sit, it's always like this, right? And I get something in return. I want her to think that when I say sit, no matter what you're doing, you just put your butt down, okay? So, right, the way we do that is simply by doing sits during the free motion. So I'm just moving around, whether she's moving, she's sniffing something, whatever, I just sit, tap, 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 randomly give the cue. And in this case, because earlier I talked about stopping, right? I'm still moving to see if she has any issues with it. If she was like lunging at my side, I would stop to help her out. Here I'm tapping, she's actually stopping and giving me the sit. So I go, cool. I can start again removing myself, so she thinks when you say sit, it doesn't matter what you're doing, I still have to do this. Break. Oh, she actually broke just a second before I cued it. Sneaky, sneaky. Sit, tap, tap. Good. Now, when we say sit, stays applied, right? So if she got up, we wouldn't say anything, we would simply, like the way you did the stay earlier, up, tap.
Right.
All that stuff stays the same, right? It's just, for humans, if she's in the heel and I come to a stop, human logic says I can't tell her sit, she's already doing it.
Right.
That's why we use the stay. Stay in the position that you're in. So if Xyla were to be at home, and let's say she just happens to be laying on her place. You didn't send her there. And then you decide, I need you to not move, stay, right? You could technically remove her and place her, right? Or you just teach the concept of stay. And she goes, oh, now I'm in a place command, okay? And then you would correct it as if it were a place command. Same thing with the down, same thing with the sits, okay? Yeah. So once I've given the cue, it then goes into effect. So like even if I stop and talk for 2 minutes, she's still in a sitting position until I release her.
Right.
Yeah, girl, break. Good. Sit, tap, tap, tap. Good. And we're at 29. Good. Break. Sit, tap, tap. Yeah, girl. Break. Sit, tap, 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 tap. Good. When I do my step aways, I treat them the same as if it were a stay. I tend to go off of that right leg. Break. So I make it very consistent for the dog. So there doesn't create a gray area. Sit, tap, 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 tap. Good. Questions?
No.
Here we go. Here we are. Here we are. So she's in a sit stay. Yep. 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 Good.
Break her, right?
Yes.
Break.
Good. And then you just move around randomly.
Sit.
Yep. There you go. And keep walking. Yep. Tap. Tap. Good.
Break. Do I have to be next to her to break?
Nope. So like, actually that's a good question. Sorry, people have been letting their dogs poop here and they don't pick it up. Yeah. So, very good question. When it comes to the release, I like to be within a certain vicinity when I do release.
Okay.
to prevent a future problem. So let's say you told Xyla to sit, right? And then you're over here in the kitchen or something, and then you go, break Xyla, and you're like 15 feet away. Now you've taught her that you may release her at a distance, right? And which is, it's not wrong. But then we create a potential problem. Where let's say she's in a stay and you're away from her. And you've done releases from a distance, and then maybe she thinks you hear, she hears you say break, right? And she prematurely releases. But we don't need her to, or we don't want her to in that moment. That it creates a bit of confusion. Now it's always, we're right beside her, break. Then she thinks, well, mom never releases me at a distance. She always is here. So I'm just gonna hold the position, right? So it's not right or wrong, it's just if you do the other approach, it just means we're gonna have to correct that should that become an issue.
That makes sense.
Okay?
Break.
Yep. We'll do 3 more.
Sit.
Yep.
Break.
2 more.
Sit.
That's a good one.
Break.
And last one.
Sit.
Good. I'm gonna stand right there. So, when it comes to the sit, let's say you're walking with her and like you see a friend and you're gonna have a conversation with them. That's gonna be like 15 minutes. If I see that, like if I already know that, I wouldn't use the sit in that moment because it's uncomfortable for a dog to sit in this position for an extended period of time. Okay, and we're gonna do it here just like, how do you say, to show you just like what she's capable of, but realistically speaking, I don't do that.
Okay.
If anything, I'll tell the dog to down, right? Because I know better, I'm the human. So I go down, because I'm gonna be here for a bit, and I have my conversation.
Right.
A lot of people tend to get so in tune to what they're doing that they forget about the dog. So if I am talking with my friend, I would short my leash, because my leash is communication. I know Xyla shouldn't move, but then if I'm having that conversation, she goes, you're distracted, and I start to feel my arm move, that tells me Xyla is breaking from position. I don't even say anything, I just up remote, she self-corrects, I go back to having that conversation. So then she goes, oh, well sure, Jesse's distracted, but he's still in tune with me and I still have to keep this position. So I remember as a kid, like my mom would talk to my neighbor and she'd like, just wait right here. And like I'd get bored and I'd just wander off and she started doing stuff and she'd be completely oblivious to it, you know? Same thing for the dog. So again, the more consistent you can be, the better. So in this case, you're stepped away. She's in your peripheral range. You can see her. That as she moves, it's very clear. So if you ever find that you're not going to be able to keep a visual on her, I always just shorten the leash because that's my communication then, right? Because it's going to give her away if she starts to like sniff or like lay down and stuff. So if Xyla did decide to lay down, you would correct her. Leg pull up, remote, she pops back up, I relax. She's technically not doing anything wrong. She's just going, okay, mom, you're gonna be here for a bit. I'm gonna get comfortable. I'm gonna lay down. But it becomes gray area. Because then she thinks, well, if I can lay down from a sit and I can wander from a sit, then why can't I be reactive? Right? So we tend to focus on the big things, and the big things tend to be composed of a lot of little things that go unaddressed. So the more you can see that and keep her just really regimented, the better she is overall. Okay? Questions about this?
No.
When it comes to practicing the sits, just a couple minutes a day, just like you're doing it. You're just like walking around, right? And then like, let's say you want to test her understanding of the sit. You're walking with her outside, maybe she's on a potty break and she's just being a dog sniffing, she gets really distracted, and then maybe she sees a squirrel, sit. Tip, tip, up, tip, tip, right there, it's good, and focus. She sees a squirrel. So this actually happened to me with a client. Her dog was staring at a squirrel in the tree, and she was sitting, and we were behind the dog. And I go, tell her down. Well, dog's still staring at the squirrel, but she still laid down. And she's like, that's crazy. She's like, I thought she was so focused on the squirrel that she wasn't gonna do it. I go, with this approach, it teaches them to kind of keep a part of their brain paying attention to you. They don't have to be looking at you in order to understand what they're supposed to do or associate. It's been conditioned. It's whether or not what you say is important enough for them to do it in the context. Okay? So, outside in the real world, you can let her be distracted. Give her the sit, and whether or not she does it during the distraction or what she's doing kind of gives you an idea of her concept. It should be, once I give you the cue of sit, I don't care if she's zooming around, she technically should sit.
Yeah.
Okay? Other questions? All right, so we covered a lot of ground today. We got the stay, we have the sit, and then we have the potential socialization exercise. Okay?
Yes.
When it comes to that, yep. And right there, and relax. There you go. Good. Don't feel rushed into it. Okay? Because the person entering the home is a really big factor.
Right.
Okay? So if that remains unresolved, then I have to show you how to address that so that you can do the second exercise, which is what I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
But like, let's say you're out, you meet a friend, she's never met them before, and you're like, hey, I'm trying to socialize Xyla. Do you mind helping me? You give them the leash, all they gotta do is crouch down, a little bit of tension, and you remote. Yep. And you remote until she moves to them. And then, tell them, don't pet her, don't talk to her, just ignore her, just have her chill next to you. Maybe 5 minutes goes by, Xyla decides to try to sneak away, boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'll go back to here again. Okay? 5 minutes, 15 minutes, like it all stacks on each other.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything else?
No.
Good. So you have your homework for the week.
Yes.
And then next class, we'll plan on being in the back again.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about being on a long leash. We'll just make sure to keep the forward open
Okay.
so that we can start doing that stuff as well. Okay? Anything else?
No. Oh, well, I was thinking about, because remember she is on fluoxetine.
Oh, yeah.
So would this be, since it's like, I think it's halfway, would this be like a good time to try?
Sure.
Well, I guess I should talk to her doctor for her.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not, like, I've had clients just stop.
okay.
I've had clients done do the, the taper or whatever. In the end, it's like not much of a difference, in my opinion. I don't care what you do, but if you feel like you want to remove it, that's perfectly fine. Then I just keep an eye on her behavior, right? So like, let's say you drop the fluoxetine and then you're tapering it off and you start to notice her reactivity kicks in again. Now, in my book, it's not the fluoxetine, it's the discipline, right? That if that did happen, my thing would be like, just raise your number. Because maybe the fluoxetine was in some way affecting the tool or the training. Then I go, all right, well, then we compensate by just raising the power.
Right.
That's almost always the answer. And I'm not saying go from like 40 to 100,
Right.
but you would do like we did in the beginning, 40, 45, 50.
Yeah.
And maybe her number goes from 40 to 60 without the fluoxetine.
Right.
But in my experience, it's just always been the same.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, perfect.
Anything else?
No.
All right, good job.
Perfect.
Yeah, she's
Great.
looking more and more relaxed each time I see her.